By now, you've probably seen this video.
How do we introduce memory, right? Photographic memory into what you do on the PC. And now we have it. So it's called recall. It's not keyword search, right? It's semantic search over all your history.
And this video.
It's constantly taking snapshots in the background of everything you do on your computer.
And this video.
Microsoft Recall, a new AI tool by Microsoft, is one of the biggest mistakes in terms of privacy that I've ever heard of in the history of computing.
And this video too.
Today, let's hack Microsoft's crappy recall feature.
And all of these videos talking about Windows Recall. Everyone has been talking about Recall for the past couple of weeks, and here I am, ready to cash in my internet points with my attempt to chat about Recall. So with this video, I'd like to do a couple different things. I'd like to show you Recall in action. We'll get into that in a moment. I'd like to show you how you can set up Recall in a little bit of a preview state. And I'd like to talk about the current state of Recall and that it is, or was, kind of a privacy and security nightmare. So here I am in an Azure Cloud Virtual Machine running on ARM64 in the latest preview version of Windows 11 24H2. Now you might notice something a little bit interesting down at the very bottom right of my screen on my sys tray. This little icon is Windows Recall, and as you can see, it is saving snapshots, and it shows me my last snapshot. Now you might note that that snapshot is really just a screenshot. It's literally a screenshot of my screen. Everything that I do on the computer being captured, stored, and easily retrievable via Recall. From the sys tray here, you can, if you would like, pause some of the screenshots or resume screenshots, but ultimately you would open Recall. You can click that button, or the Windows key and J will automatically open up Recall, showing you how you could now search for anything that has happened on your computer across text, images, whatever. Let me say, I know that I'm showcasing the features and functionality right now without any scrutiny, but trust me, don't worry, we'll get to the scrutiny. I just want to show you that user's perspective so you can see it in action. Now, I've gone ahead and interacted with my computer for a little bit just to generate some data that Recall would store so that we could retrieve and recover it, or recall it. That's the whole point, right? Hey, being able to search through your history of anything you've ever done on your computer. Like, oh, I don't know, if I were to search for music, can I track anything down with, oh, what I've been looking for? Sure, okay, there's a music festival, which I might have searched on YouTube, and that could presumably get something sketchy or strange, maybe in case you, I'm alluding to, I don't know, users potentially having some bad habits, or maybe things that they don't want easily recoverable from their computer. Maybe I saw something interesting on Twitter that I wanted to try and remember. Oh, I don't know, twitter.com. Will that end up searching for it? I'd probably have to use X, but in which case, maybe X could return some other websites that aren't what we want to end up seeing. This is a fun gimmick because I actually pulled this back for referring to, hey, a live overflow tweet. Kudos, good shout out to my friend here. He was tweeting and saying, look, I'm out of the loop. What's the issue with Windows Recall? So I'd collected a screenshot of just, I don't know, looking at the text and data that Recall would have pulled out from it. And obviously you can copy and paste this. You could use OCR, that optical character recognition, to pull out literally anything. You can see the focus and active window, or the web browser, or any web pages that you might have visited, and the exact timestamp as to when that was captured from Recall. Now you'll note that I'm actually, hey, moving along what would be a timeline, and I'm scrolling through all of the snapshots taken on my device. Now, some of those might not be ideal, like if you just accidentally press, or maybe even intentionally press, the show password. Say that I had a typo, just hand jamming my password, and wanted to click in to see it, make some changes, but Recall doesn't have any sort of, I don't know, distinction of what is sensitive data, like credit card details, banking information, your password, any confidential documents that you just happen to use or have on your computer. Because seriously, Recall isn't going to pass judgment on what is sensitive or not, it's just going to capture, store everything. Now let me say, you can adjust in the settings here. I can go take a look at the AI, hey, privacy and security, recall and snapshots, privacy configuration. We can see what we could toggle on or off in the Windows settings here. Obviously, whether or not we're saving snapshots, we just turn that on or off, and you'll see the sys tray icon go away as I do that. Of course, hey, how much storage we've ended up using. It's fun to see that number go up as I'm actively using my computer and Recall is continuing to take screenshots. I had a thought that I wouldn't even record this video video, I would just let Recall record it for me. You can delete snapshots through this graphical user interface, of course, and there are a couple of filtered lists that you could set up for applications that you don't want to have captured and taken by snapshots and screenshots, or websites that you don't want to have displayed there. But here's the thing. This might already be just firing off alarm bells and sirens in your head as to, look, this could be a major privacy and security nightmare. Like, all the data and details ever seen on your computer ever are historically captured and archived that could be retrieved at any point. If you put your hacker hat on for a second, maybe act as the adversary, hey, play pretend threat actor, look, that could be a juicy little crown jewel that you might like to steal, extract, pilfer. I'm looking at you, Redline stealer, Luma stealer, Jupiter, whatever info stealer malware that's out there, right? That laundry list goes on and on and on. So the conversation becomes, how is this stored? How is it accessed? Is it encrypted? Is there security in the mix? And Microsoft has been saying for the longest time in news articles, going to the press, chatting with folks like, look, we want security by design. We want security in everything that we do. And obviously they're getting raked over the coals over it. And look, cool. I mean, the idea on its own is a sweet, cool thing, but the execution has been kind of crappy. And let me say, look, this is all speaking in the past, because there are some new changes as of today while I'm recording this that, look, Recall is kind of being soft recalled, or at least presented in a different way. We'll talk about that in a little bit more, but first, let me show you the gory details. Back on my computer, say if I were to open up my Windows File Explorer and I were to navigate to my own user directory, just John H., and it could be whatever your username is, right? Joe, Alice, Patricia, I don't know, Felicia. Look, if I were to now obviously dig into any of the folders here, you don't see anything all that interesting because you don't have the hidden folders accessible or viewable by default. But it is just a hidden folder, right? If we show some hidden items, you can see app data. That local application data cache, directory and folder where a lot of, hey, application configurations, settings, cache data is stored. Now, if I move in there, you've got local app data, local low, roaming. Local is where we might be able to find another interesting folder called Core AI Platform.00. Drilling down into that, we've got UKP, and then another GUID or user unique identifier. And this path, literally just your local app data directory. Drilling down, you could see everything that Recall is storing in the gory details of the files here. This includes the image store, all of the snapshots or screenshots that it's seeing over time, and some of the databases. Hey, real raw data that it's being able to extract, pull out OCR, and present it available within the interface. We don't need to work too hard here. Again, if we're still wearing our hacker hat and acting as the adversary, these are all, again, GUIDs, just, hey, whatever, files included in the image store directory. Now, these all might look like, oh, blobs of just random binary data. They don't have a file extension, so presumably you think, okay, it could be some metadata, I don't know, format in whatever way, but no, honestly, they're just JPEG image files, .jpg. We could literally just right-click one of these, rename it, add a .jpeg file extension, and then open that up to see okay, the privacy and security settings that I was looking at with Recall. Where is the music festival t-shirt one? I don't know, we can add another JPEG file extension, or my password, right? Is that in any of these? Yeah, there it is. Pulling back out of the image store directory, though, the UKG file, ukg.db, if we take a look at the properties here, it is just a database file. In fact, it's just SQLite. So we could use a database browser like the SQLite database browser. Let me actually run that. We could open that, and you can take a look at all the data that is stored here. Let me maximize this, and here are the tables, right? Oh, app, maybe apps that you've had open, app dwell time, files you might have open, screen region like a bounding box for that OCR, optical character recognition, web, and maybe websites that you've been to. We can expand this out. Window capture, app relations, file relations based off IDs, index config content, data. Let me actually drill down and show you these, because that's when it gets a little bit spooky, right? If we go into browse data, we're currently in the app table, but let me expand some of these, and you could see applications that have been running on this host. and things that it has been doing, right? Oh, maybe the actual executable, maybe the name, maybe the path. This doesn't include any timestamp data, so that's not super duper interesting. However, app dwell time will give us, hey, how long you might have been doing nothing, idling on an application at whatever hour of day, day of week, and the absolute Unix timestamp. So that's helpful if you're doing either instant response, digital forensics, or if you're acting as the adversary, I don't know, Redline info stealer, trying to steal everything seen on this device. We could keep drilling down. What else we got? Files that are open. Okay, nothing present there because I haven't been digging into too much yet. But ID table, nothing. Screen region, again, these are bounds. This one's a little bit interesting. I think this is like the pixel coordinates potentially for, hey, you getting the optical character recognition. And this, just again, acting as the adversary, putting my hacker hat on, might be a neat place to store some like steganography malware payload or hide and obfuscate something in there. I'm just thinking, I'm just saying that out loud. Of course, this being just a SQLite database with all the contents in plain text, well, you could then just modify it and fake whatever data you want. Here you can see me going to different websites with whatever web browser. I haven't tested really other than Edge, but I would assume it's still going to be tracking that. Window capture. This has a lot of crazy stuff because this is literally every single window event, sort of change that goes on in whatever application you might be open. And you could see either the window title and then some other details, timestamp, etc., etc. Keeping it going, the text index content is where a lot of the stuff gets weird and wild because you could see really the contents of every single app that's pulled out, extracted, and then available on the machine. These are stuff that I was messing with last night, whether it's total registry using process monitor, sysinternals, etc. But let me keep scrolling down because you can see in that C2 column the literal contents of goddamn everything that was open on your machine at whatever time. Me running the strings command, me trying to use cmd.exe to fire up whatever. There's the music festival again. In some other tables, there's other interesting stuff that I believe is just blob data. If I actually pull this to the side, I think this actually includes something interesting pertinent to like different applications. I don't know if it's metadata. I don't know how to parse this yet, but some of those look interesting. You can see like flush buffer, lock file, query information, like function names for stuff doing stuff. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about that when the time comes. And I don't mean to drag you down the rabbit hole here. I'm sure you get the gist. There is no security as it stands right now. It is literally a SQLite database with plain text contents and .jpeg files that are capturing everything you've done on your computer ever. You could add your exclusions and filters and whatever, but I think the idea is still pretty spooky and creepy and could totally expose whatever sensitive information, passwords, credit card details, medical docs, banking info, like you name it. Again, absolutely a treasure trove for hackers, nefarious, ill-intended actors, and wouldn't it be wild if there were something that could automate the process of extracting and pulling out all the details from these files? Obviously, information stealing malware will probably build that into their tooling, but look, even from just a security research sake, it's already been done. You may very well have already seen this, right? It's been a part of the conversation for quite a while now. This is Total Recall, a tool, literally a Python script, out and available on GitHub, publicly available by Alexander. All credit where credit is due. This is Alexander Hagenaw. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name, my friend, but Total Recall is literally a Python script to extract and display all the data from Windows Recall, that feature that we've been discussing all this time in Windows 11. You can cruise through the README if you'd like. Hey, it's got a little bit more details, a sweet old pic of the CEO of Microsoft, some more of the details and background on Recall, how it's going to be used on different devices with the Copilot Plus, all PCs running ARM. We'll chat a little bit more about how you can set it up and play with it if it's not released yet in a little bit. I'll walk through the demo for that, but the technical details dig into everything that I've just shown you. Using the script, it just extracts all the details out of that in an automated way. I'll show you it in action, but I would be remiss not to mention some of the FAQ that's included here in the README. Kevin Beaumont has really been the one leading the charge as part of the public conversation on Recall and how it has been a security disaster, privacy nightmare. He's been tweeting about it, tooting out on Mastodon and all of that. And there's some cool conversations, a little bit of back and forth on all of the discussion here. You probably already know all this. I'm probably late to the party and getting the details out and showcasing it in my own video, but I do want to scroll through it so that's at least known for you. I will echo the sentiment here at the very end, though. Is this really as harmful as everyone's making it out to be? Hey, go to your parents' house, go to your grandparents' house, talk to your family, look at their Windows PC, look at the installed software the past year and try to use the device. Do whatever you want. Literally all of that data is going to be archived, cataloged, and then easily recoverable by, threat actors, hackers, malware, whatever. So when you ask, okay, what is the burden? Where's the onus? What's the responsibility? Is that on Microsoft? What should Microsoft do? Well, I don't know. Could you recall, or at least present it in a different light? We'll chat about that again very, very soon because that is being done. Let me pull down the total recall.py Python script. I will note that I would like to see this kind of put to light in a different language, maybe something that's executable. Like, I don't know, you could do this in Rust, you could do it in Go, you could do it whatever, or even just like stupid PowerShell, so it'll naturally natively run on Windows. Python on its own is not going to be something that will just have the script execute, not a built-in on Windows, so you'll need to actually get the interpreter and fire that up. If we wanted to use this, again, it's just a proof of concept, right? It's just security researchers having fun, but let me go download Python. And then Windows Recall could totally capture all of the action of me getting into Microsoft Store. Maybe using my credit card to buy some whatever actual apps. I don't know. Okay, Python is now installed. So let me see if I can open up a command prompt. There we go. Let me get to my desktop. Can I run Python 3? Yeah, okay, already in the path. Thank you, Microsoft Store. Let me Python 3 Total Recall. Oh, it added the .text extension, you jerk. It'll run it anyway. So here it is in action. It has already automatically modified the permissions for this folder because it's not really a security boundary with the UAC, user access control right now. That was something that I kind of just steamrolled over because it's just paper thin in my mind. You can just modify the permissions so that anyone and everyone would be able to read it. There are a couple tweets about it. I'll make sure there's an overlay in the video to show you that. But it's literally a command. Like, again, you do that in command prompt or PowerShell, and that's going to be butter, easy baby cakes for a threat actor. Windows Recall feature is found. Do you want to proceed with the extractions given the GUID that it's found? Yes, I'll type in yes. And with that, it has determined all of the captured windows. It has seen all of the images that I've seen present and include a little bit of a summary here. So we could actually open that up in Notepad if we wanted to, or see the full extraction folder path. You know what? That's probably worthwhile to do. Let me open that up in Explorer. Here we are in everything here. This gets the whole image store with everything added with a .jpeg file extension, so it's a little bit easier to parse. And then the total recall.txt explains everything that it saw with window titles, the timestamps, etc., etc. And you can see even, again, the command prompt just from running strings when I was doing that earlier. Rick Astley latest single, all right. Music festival, yep. I'll admit I don't have a ton of good data to show you this in the spooky sense, but I hope your imagination can run wild on literally just, hey, me Googling Total Recall and everything that I've done in the past couple of moments already being extracted, accessible, and within Recall. Let me say, I had started to put together maybe an equivalent of that and maybe another rendition of it in PowerShell because I think that would be kind of neat. Let me open up Recall Ripper because, again, I don't know, I just want to have my own little bit of ownership as to, hey, putting together something cool to extract all this stuff out. And again, maybe that's a project for you if you're interested in that. But think of all the things you might be able to do, like extract images, maybe compress, exfil that, I don't know, slap it up on a paste bin, upload a YouTube video, putting together all of the images and stills that it's captured. Maybe you could determine sessions as to when a user was active on the host based off the image metadata. Maybe you could automatically search for those secrets like passwords, juicy details, credit card details, social security numbers, medical detail, bank, whatever. Like, this is a crazy playground and a little scary. Obviously, I am nowhere close on finishing the script. This was just me messing around, playing with it live in the moment the other day. But you could totally use Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever AI shenanigans you want to take the Total Recall Python script and like convert that into a PowerShell equivalent or whatever language, totally abusing AI to do more AI damage amongst AI buzzword, AI again. To add a little bit more fuel to the fire, Marshall Hallenbeck, one of the developers, contributors for NetExec, another CrackMap exec kind of continuation, a video that I've created previously to showcase that utility if you're interested. They actually put together some module to extract and pull out all the recall database over the network. Hey, remotely, which is wild and crazy, and there's that. And Alex, that same researcher who put together the Total Recall Python script, was probably going to end up making a Metasploit module to do all this just as easily. Now that recall is being changed and soft recalled in a little bit of an interesting way, maybe that's not as practical, but probably still worthwhile to do because it might always get re-enabled. I do think that is an important idea to note, though, just as well, because even if the changes to recall now mean, hey, it's not going to be enabled by default as it was planned to be originally, and it's opt-in, well, you know what? The threat actor, hacker, malware, whatever, could just gain their initial access and then toggle it on, hang out, dwell, lurk in the environment, do nothing for a little bit, just let time pass, and then collect, slurp up, and pilfer all the information that they wanted to begin with. Maybe they could hide it, maybe they could mask it, maybe they could do something to, hey, have that go under the radar, and then that attack surface isn't really just removed now. It's still going to be a thing that's a worrisome point for security with Windows Recall. With that said, it is now time for me to clarify, at least as of today, at the time of recording, there has been a change, and everything that I showed you thus far may or may not be pertinent to what Windows Recall really looks like under the hood. The bells and whistles of the image store and the SQLite database, all plain text. Now, it should be, hey, something that you actually opt into, and it's not going to be enabled by default, and it might have a little bit more bolstered security and encryption in place. This is an article from The Verge that popped this morning. Windows will no longer take screenshots of everything you do after all, unless you opt in. They are making some changes about that controversial recall feature. I won't drag you through this article, but I will say, hey, this is good. This is a win. Big thanks to Kevin Beaumont, I think. Again, seriously, he's been leading the charge, screaming and shouting about this from the rooftop, and a good many of us over in the security community just trying to say, dude, this is bananas. This is bonkers. How did this come to life? And I don't mean to dogpile on Microsoft. That's not what I mean to do personally, but now I think it's good to see these changes. Microsoft will require Windows Hello to enable the recall, so you'll either need to authenticate with your face, fingerprint, or using a PIN. You will need that proof of presence to be able to view the timeline and search within recall, so presumably that's authentication, an extra layer of validation, multi-factor, whatever. We're adding additional layers of data protection, including just-in-time decryption provided by the Windows Hello Enhanced Sign-In Security, or ESS. That is phenomenal. And I'll be the first to say, we hadn't seen any AI in the works yet. Like, we saw OCR, the optical character recognition, being able to search through stuff, but I hadn't done any, artificial intelligence, machine learning buzzword to say, hey, tell me what I did last week and where I ordered Mexican food, right? I'm glad that Kevin Beaumont is getting the shout out here. He has really been the squeaky wheel, so I think that's a good thing. Total Recall in the conversation, NetExec, of course, and all of that wild stuff. There's a little bit more dogpiling on, hey, how we can do security, quote from Microsoft, so now we should actually do security. I hope it's not just going to be some AI fanatic, let's drive this to production. Make sure we do it right. Cyberscoop, Microsoft rolls back dumbest cybersecurity move in a decade. God dang, that's harsh, dude. Wanted to showcase Sean Metcalf's tweet. Recall is now off by default. This is a good summary, I think. Off by default unless explicitly turned on. Required with Windows Hello. Hello proof of presence is required to view the timeline, and now it's properly encrypted with Windows Hello ESS. Glad to see it. 2 thumbs up. Smiley face. Turns out speaking out works. Look, you get to make your own judgment call. Is it spyware? Is Windows spyware? Is Windows a botnet? I don't know. People say whatever in the YouTube comments and the Twitterverse, but you got your own threat model. You got your own risk. You got your own risk assessment and decision making. I'm glad that the whole world kind of coming out and screaming about this thing did make a change. Epic win for our sanity and security and privacy. Meredith Whitaker's chiming in. Hey, thanks. Yeah. Heck yeah. Okay, so I think that is the state of the state as to where things are right now. And again, that's like new news. As of the day that I'm recording this video, that's when that update dropped. Still, recall is a conversation to be had, and in fact, if I may, I had shared a big long Twitter thread as to how I got this all up and running, and I'll show you that in a technical demo now, just following this section. But in case it's interesting to you, I did pour in just a little bit of extra playground experimentation, just kind of tinkering and seeing what we might be able to see with the registry, with other configuration settings, how to toggle this thing on and off, being able to play with it. So if you'd like to see more of that experimentation, let me know, and you can see that in the Twitter thread if you'd like. All right, now let's walk through how you can set this up yourself if you would like to play with Recall in its current preview state, or maybe later down the line, seeing how things change. The easiest way that I've found to do this is by using that Azure Cloud Virtual Machine, and that does require a little bit of funding. But hey, you can tear this down, shut it off whenever you want. you will need a Microsoft account that you could log in with on login.live.com. So make sure that you're able to log in at that location. If you haven't used Azure before, feel free to make an account, but once you are all logged in, head over to portal.azure.com. Once you're there, you'll be seeing the Azure services, and we'll want to move into the virtual machines location. This may very well be blank for you, but you could go ahead and create a new Azure virtual machine. This will show you a running calculation of the estimated monthly costs. Do with that what you will. Your mileage may vary. You may not need to do any of this, or again, shut it off, do whatever you need to do. And by the way, a lot of this is already documented with some Microsoft documentation. They include a heck of a lot of screenshots, so you could roll through that if you'd like. Honestly, it's the exact same process that I'll end up showing you, but if you'd like something that you could read through and follow along with, I'll link that in the video description. When you're creating your virtual machine within Azure, you will need to specify the resource group. You could hook this up to whatever subscription you might like if you have other, I don't know, cards, projects, whatever you use to pay for this stuff. There should be one by default already set for you. But if you don't have a resource group already created, again, you can just create new, give it a name, really doesn't matter. I've created one for the Recall resource group. That's literally just all I called it. And you could name the virtual machine whatever you'd like. We can call this Recall VM. And I think that you could use whatever region is close to you. Ultimately, I'm over in the West Coast of the United States, so this is fine, but the availability options they recommend are actually setting this to no infrastructure redundancy required, so the security type will automatically be set to standard. Now, make sure standard is what you have set, because that is what's really necessary for the Windows 11 version 24H2 ARM64 Gen 2. If that isn't chosen for you, head on over to See All Images. That'll bring you to the marketplace, and you can really search for whatever you want with any of these filters. But I found if you just search for ARM64, it will automatically bring up the Microsoft Windows 11 preview ARM64. With that, you can select and make sure you choose one of these with 24H2. Again, that's what we're targeting, and it will need to be ARM64. You can use Windows Enterprise, Windows Professional. I was rolling with Windows 11 Professional. With that, you'll make sure the VM architecture is ARM64. You don't even have the option for x64, and you will need to set the size. Now, this is where you get into a little bit of a hard spot. That size option is where you'll end up choosing the amount of resources that are given to the virtual machine. Things like the number of CPUs, RAM, and you'll need to make sure that it meets the required system resources to run Recall. I guess you could pull it off with some lower resources. I think we got it working with just like 4 CPUs, but they do recommend, hey, make sure you've got all this staged with the required resources being 16 gigs of RAM, 8 processors, 256 gigs of storage, and you will need at least 50 gigabytes free for it to be able to keep taking snapshots. Saving screenshots, I'm glad they called it screenshots there, not snapshots, that automatically pauses once the device has less than 25 gigs of storage left, so make sure that you've just got enough space. So what you might need to do is see all sizes here, and I gotta admit, hey, a lot of those might just say, hey, resources not available or insufficient or unsupported, whatever. Try to track down. I found the ones that seem to be working best for me are B8, the B series family. B8 PLS V2 is what I had chosen because that has 8 CPUs, 16 gigs of RAM, but you will need to request a quota increase. I'll say, though, that I believe that's automatic, or at least it's automated in a quick and easy way. If you click the button and you fill it out, look, I just want 16 CPUs or whatever, hey, it'll let it happen. After you get notification that your quota increase was approved, then give it a few seconds. It takes a little bit of time to like properly refresh the page, but it will actually happen, and you'll be able to properly select one of these options, again, meeting the quota to make sure you match the system requirements. We'll go ahead and select that. We don't need to deal with Azure Spot Discount, hibernation crap, whatever. You can create what other administrator account you want. You can generate a secure password if that's something that you prefer to do. I don't know, use your password generator to make something crazy random, but I'll just use a static thing because, again, this is just for our testing and playground. You can then configure whatever networking ports you want. Hey, stuff that you could actually connect to this, access it. I got to admit, I think I'll just YOLO. Hey, you only live once. It's fine for me, again, to be testing. This is just our virtual machine. We can make it stupid, dumb, naked, bare, exposed to the internet with RDP port 3389. Sue me, whatever. Look, it's just for playground. Check the box on the licensing so you're good to keep cruising here, and we will need to move into the next section to modify the disk, because again, this needs to have at least 256 gigs of storage, but probably even a little bit more if we want to make sure, hey, we'll get enough recall data, whatever. Again, your mileage may vary, experiment if you want, but I went the safe route. I'm cool with going overkill. I just did 512 gigs. With that, truth be told, you're basically done. That is kind of all you need. We can review and create. Again, hey, take it for what you will, whatever price tag, shut this off, kill it, do whatever you need to do. But ultimately, once you've got the green validation passed, you are good to create this virtual machine. Let me go ahead and click create, and that will start to spin stuff up. We'll go ahead and see that deployment in progress, and this will take just a couple minutes. Everything moves at the speed of Azure, right? Okay, looks like the deployment is complete. So with that, we can go ahead and scroll down just to actually take a look at our virtual machine. This should turn into a green checkbox, and then we should be able to click into that. And then we have a public IP address, so we can just RDP into this. We'll go over to the Connect tab, make sure we can connect. If we scroll down, it'll give us just the native RDP, in which case we can download the RDP file, make that super easy for us. I will go ahead and save that, just so we've got it. And with that, we can click into our RDP file, and that'll prompt us to go ahead and connect. Yep, fine by me. We don't need to worry about this. Again, just a testing virtual machine. That will prompt for credentials, and we'll go ahead and choose more choices, so that way we can specify a different account and enter the username and password that you've just created in that setup page. With that, we can go ahead and click OK. It'll prompt for the usual certificate noise. Again, this is a testing virtual machine, that's fine. And now we will be connected to our RDP session. We'll go ahead and log in. This will bring you through the usual out-of-box experience, OOBE. You'll just go ahead and say no to all that crap. And I believe with the changes to recall, this will end up being something that, I don't know, you could configure or actually toggle in, on or off, opt in if you wanted to, but not enabled by default with at least what they're saying will be the new changes to recall. With that, we'll be brought into our new desktop. I just changed the background and amped up the display size so it looks a little bit more real here. But look, let me hit the Windows key and R at the same time so we can run a command like winver. And that will show us we are in fact on version 24H2, currently OS build 26100.560. Now, we need to upgrade. We need to actually bring this to, I believe, .712. I could be wrong, just thinking that off the cuff. But ultimately, we'll open up Windows Updates. We will need to check for updates, in which case, that'll tell us, hey, we actually have some new things to download here. I just click that blue button, check for updates, and it'll do its thing. You'll want to make sure that Windows Update ends up installing KB or knowledge base 5037850, in which case you'll end up seeing with the winver command you're now on version 24H2 OS build 26100.712. Once that is finally done, you can open up your web browser and head over to GitHub, where we'll get to use that sweet tool at github.com/thebookisclosed amperage kit. Big shout out and huge props to The Book Is Closed, who literally genuinely made like the easy button for all this. Amperage Kit is the one-stop shop for enabling recall in Windows 11 version 24H2 on unsupported devices. We can go take a look at the README. The instructions here are super easy. It's just a console application, like one executable that sets up all the hardware configuration, does some sweet detours magic, because look, this does have to work on an ARM CPU, and that's why, hey, we did this in the Azure virtual machine. You'll need any usual Qualcomm Snapdragon, Microsoft SQ, or Ampere chipset, and you do need to be running version 26100.712. That's why we ran Windows Update. If you want to get a little bit adventurous, you want to try and be bold, hey, a little bit risky, you could try emulating the ARM64 Windows work on your x64 PC, but I don't know, I just think it's easiest to roll with this Azure virtual machine. If you take a look at the How to Get Started section, you will need to head over to the Releases page and download the latest version. We can go ahead and do that now. Click on over here, we'll just need the zip file, so I'll download that. Next, you need the AI components and machine learning workloads for ARM64 that are available at this link. We can go ahead and click on that. That brings us to an Internet Archive page for the Windows AI workloads for ARM64 version 0.3.252.0. Now, it offers a 7-zip archive that's just about 3 gigs, a little bit hefty to download, and a torrent file. You could download this with whatever torrent you might like, I guess uTorrent or whatever. I'll go ahead and just get the source with the 7-zip. Might take a little bit of time though with whatever cloud networking it does. Once we have both of these downloaded, you can go ahead and extract the release from GitHub. Let me go over to my file explorer, get to the downloads here. We can go ahead and extract this. I'll put this just on my desktop here. I suppose in like Amperage can be a subdirectory for that to work in. We'll go ahead and extract that. Now in the workload components directory, that is where we'll have to extract and place all of the MSIX and XML files and whatever was inside that workload zip archive that we downloaded from the Internet Archive page. So back to my downloads, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Yep, those are all the MSIX files. Let's go ahead and extract all into the location that we just chose inside of Amperage and the workload components. Once that is done, we can go ahead and kick the tires on this thing. Fire up the command prompt as administrator, navigate to the directory you extracted Amperage to, and then Amperage install. That's all we need to do. So let's do it. I'll go ahead and open up the command prompt as administrator. We'll go ahead and full screen that, move into my desktop, and we had this Amperage directory, in which case we have our amperage.exe. We can go ahead and run our amperage.exe. You'll see the help output here, just /install is all that we need. So let's run /install. Hit enter, fire this up, and this is all that we needed to do. It'll just do it all the rest for us. At the end, we'll see recall has been successfully enabled. Please reboot, wait for the AI components to finish their first time initialization, but we are done. Let me reboot super quick, shutdown /r/T0, and with that, we can go ahead and see recall in action the moment that we're back in business. All right, booting back up. Now we can see things getting started. We can give it just a few moments and we might be able to see that Windows recall icon down below in the bottom right in the sys tray. We'll give it a little bit, or we can kind of kickstart it with Windows and the J key. Oh, but take a look, it's already there. All right. And there you have it. A lot of different steps, but now at the very least, we have a playground. We've got a virtual machine, an ARM64 computer spun up with Azure Cloud virtual machines so that you can explore, kick the tires, and maybe experiment a little bit with recall. Again, it is subject to change now. Sounds like we are going to be seeing a whole lot of those security improvements that the whole community has been screaming like bloody murder for the longest time. But I am very glad. It does kind of warm my heart, and I'm happy to see that the whole security community, the whole internet, right, can make a difference and hold them accountable. Hold Microsoft accountable. Literally, look, the source of the Windows operating system and all this, when push comes to shove, that is necessary. I'd love to get your hot take. I'd love to know what you think of Windows recall and all this AI shenanigans. And I don't know, this whole thing was Windows spyware. Is it more so now than ever? Is Microsoft off the deep end? Blah, blah, blah. I'd love to hear your conspiracy theories and shenanigans down below. So please, please, please fill out those YouTube comment sections. I don't know, like, comment, subscribe, do all those YouTube algorithm things. And thank you so much for listening. This was a lot of fun to put together and really cool to explore and experiment. Even if recall changes a little bit in the future, now we've got at least a way to kick the tires and experiment with it. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. That's it. I'm done. I've cashed in my internet clout to add to the noise of everyone else screaming and shouting about recall. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.